Hi everyone! Welcome! Welcome to Powered by Rainbows. I am, of course, your host, Professor Pride, and today, boy, do I have news for you. So, we've been sort of hiding it for a little tiny bit now, online at least, because I didn't want to jinx it. I didn't want to, put out too much that would upset possibly the news agency that uh, welcomed us into their article. But as you guys all know, uh, a lot has happened in America this past week with Roe v. Wade being overturned and with the U.S. Supreme Court being so atrocious to our community. So basically, this has been in the news a lot. We're even covering it on our show next week. We have a special live stream next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that is scheduled on our YouTube channel here. That is actually, I'll show you just this. So it's Roe v. Wade Effects on LGBTQ. It's a live panel discussion with Pastor Sharon Stokes, Professor Pride, myself, Michael Martin Jr., David Moore, and Joel E. Beneke, Esquire, a lawyer, is coming in to help us in this discussion. So we have a lot going on in the next week, but this week we are also interviewed. So USA Today Network, which is a major news organization here in the United States, they reached out to the Pennsylvania Equality Project, which is an organization that I also work for aside from Powered by Rainbows. So they reached out to Pennsylvania Equality Project, and I just so happen to be the media contact for Pennsylvania Equality Project. I do the interviews, the fun things that go out there, because I'm well versed on all of the legislation and all the things that I need to know because of my job at Powered by Rainbows and at Pennsylvania Equality Project. And this week I also got voted in as the president-elect, which means I'm going to be taking the responsibility of president in the coming months. So it is super exciting to be in this position. It's an amazing way to celebrate Pride, is to be, to rank up a little bit and get a promotion at the other side of things. It's a nonprofit that I love helping, and I very much encourage, if you live in Pennsylvania, to get involved with the Pennsylvania Equality Project. We even designed a brand new website this week on top of all of that for the PA Equality Project. So that website will be coming out very shortly. But then USA Today reached out to us, and they're like, hey, who's your media contact, and who can we talk to about an interview? So Monday morning, I had an interview with Sammy Gibbons, who's a reporter with USA Today, and it was about 45 minutes long. It's an incredible article. I want to actually go through it here, but it's an amazing experience to be interviewed by such a massive organization. They expressed their interest in a cooperation in the future, where we get to work with them many times over in the future. If you, I said to them, if you ever need any sort of commentary in the future on anything LGBTQ, including anti-LGBTQ bills or any pro-LGBT stuff happening, and you want a commentary on it, please reach out to us. We would love to help you. I'm the media contact. I would love to do more interviews. So it was so fun. Really, Sammy made it incredible. Sammy apparently does a lot of LGBTQ articles for USA Today. So very much encourage you to go check out all of their articles here. But I'm going to go through this one today because this is the one I was interviewed for. So this one's titled "Supreme Court Abortion Ruling Rattles LGBTQ Residents in New York, Pennsylvania. They ask what's next." So yes, while we're talking about horrible news here, I'm excited because it's such a massive interview and such a fantastic experience. Really, my family never imagined this is where my advocacy would get, or this is where my career was heading. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, by the way, I have an interview with USA today. And they're like, what? I thought you were just a YouTube guy. Like, no. First off, I'm on TV networks, which is weird for my family to say. But then my family is like, okay, apparently this is a little bit bigger than we thought. So yeah, this is an incredible experience, and we're going to be on the national stage more and more often. Because, like I said, not only with Powered by Rainbows for the education side, but Pennsylvania Equality Project, we're going to be on the national stage more and more often because we are reaching out to these people. We are making these contacts, and we are, you know, under a new team now. So we really want to get our name out there and our advocacy work, our education out there. So this is one of the steps to do that. So this was just posted this morning. I want to kind of go through it. Now, this is an article by Sammy Gibbons. I don't want to take credit for their writing in any way, shape, or form. It's just really exciting. And a lot of this article includes quotes from myself. So I hope you all enjoy the reading of it. And I have already spoken with USA Today, and they're okay with me sharing it. If you want to support their incredible news work, please go to the link in the description of this video. You get to read the entire article on their website. I'm going to skip to the part where it actually gets to my interview. But I will say a lot of amazing people have been included in this article. Like Gina Jaffe and her wife considered getting their estate documents together. And Jaffe is an attorney and founder of Connecting Rainbows, another amazing organization that I really want to get in contact with and work with. But their website offers advice and maintains a directory of LGBTQ affirming lawyers. So amazing group there. So let's skip down to where I actually was first quoted here. No rights feel safe after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade on Friday, said Matt Haslam, the president-elect of Pennsylvania Equality Project. The decision showed the U.S. can roll time backward and freedoms allowed LGBTQ people can, quote, be reversed at any moment, he said. So then we go down here further. It goes between the advocates and it goes between the advocates a lot, which is what typical reporting is. What good reporting is, as they use quotes from everyone to see all sides of this. Okay. This year, along with states implementing strict abortion access laws, policies went through the state houses to limit access to gender-affirming care, especially for young people. In Texas, an order allowed child abuse investigations into parents and healthcare providers who offer or support gender-affirming care, like puberty blockers for children. Transgender people already fear or have faced discrimination in healthcare settings, according to the most recent U.S. Transgender survey. If the U.S. Supreme Court strips away LGBTQ rights on a federal level, it would have immediate impacts on states like Pennsylvania that currently protect same-sex marriage. People have sued the federal government to appeal the state's reversal of its same-sex marriage ban. Haslam of the Pennsylvania Equality Project fears that with the rights taken away by the High Court, people could win these lawsuits and lead officials to overturn same-sex marriage locally. Pennsylvania Equality Project staff focused advocacy primarily on marriage equality when the nonprofit launched in 2011, 3 years before a district court legalized same-sex marriage in the state. The U.S. Supreme Court extended that right nationwide in 2015, when its ruling on the case Oberville v. Hodges. 7 years later, same-sex marriage is yet again a concern on the project's radar. Quote, these court cases happen, and sort of our most loyal subscribers say, well, we're kind of getting what we're asking for here. We're gaining equality as time goes on, Haslam said. Quote, then something. What? Okay. Sorry. Quote, then something like this past week with Roe v. Wade being overturned happens, and it puts immediate jeopardy on everything else. Um, then we skip down to, let's see. Okay, so LGBTQ people included in this story use the word community often. Over the weekend, when many of the nation's largest Pride Month festivities occurred, the sense of LGBTQ community was clear. People filled the streets for annual Pride parades, donning rainbow flags as capes, but the tone wasn't as celebratory as years past. People wielded signs boasting statements like, quote, abortion access is a queer issue. LGBTQ people of all rainbow stripes, allies, people who declared their past abortions, linked arms in solidarity hours after the Supreme Court's decision. It won't be the last time LGBTQ people rally to advocate for rights they won not long ago. Haslam urged LGBTQ people to come together and, quote, ramp up our advocacy. Quote, we have to get out there and we have to protest peacefully. We have to help our audience understand how easy it is to vote. Pennsylvania Equality Project believes the way to have true equality is with everyone's say, Haslam said. That is the end of our quotes for a national publication, which is just incredible. In these articles, you don't get, 1,000 words from your interview. You get certain little quotes, but it does reflect our feelings on this. This does reflect that entire 45-minute interview. It's a lot of people think it's easy to write an article and easy to be a news reporter, but this is like one example of no. This is a difficult task to summarize how an entire community feels. Summarize 45-minute conversations with one person into a few quotes into an article like this one, I know a lot is happening right now. I know a lot of bad things are occurring, but I will say this is, let me get to this. This fight is not over. Put it this way, okay? You have a Supreme Court that 5 of the justices are extremely partisan, extremely Republican. Our country in the United States is democratic. Our country is massively controlled by Democrats, believe it or not. A majority of Americans are Democrat at heart, not Republican. Our House and our Senate right now are controlled by the Democrats. In the past, 30, 40 years, Republicans have not won the popular vote in the president seat, right? Republicans have not won the popular vote for president except for one single election in the past 30 or 40 years. So we have a Supreme Court that 5 of the justices were appointed by Republican presidents that did not win the popular vote. 3 of those were appointed by Donald Trump, a president who lost the popular vote twice and committed insurrection, allegedly committed treason, and now is being there is evidence to suggest that Donald Trump tried to commit actual murder and attempted murder of a U.S. Secret Service member. So you have a man who attempted murder and treason and insurrection just to basically get rid of democracy, and somehow he appointed 3 of the U.S. Supreme Court justices, which is not great at all. So the question becomes, well, with the Democrats controlling the legislative branch and executive branch of the government, what do? You go out there and vote. You get involved locally. Because how this happened was Republicans have voted In every election for the past 50 years, they have gone out there, they have voted. They made sure that the right people were in the right jobs to make this happen. This is the culmination of 50 years of their hard work. The overturning of Roe v. Wade. And not to mention the fact that you have multiple Supreme Court justices, including Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and others who lied under oath to the U.S. Senate when they were having confirmation hearings. They lied under oath and said that Roe v. Wade is safe. We are not going to overturn it. If it comes up for a vote, I would not vote to overturn it. And then they went to overturn it immediately. So you have Supreme Court justices who are willing to lie under oath to the U.S. Senate, the highest court besides Supreme Court. They're able to lie under oath, and there's seemingly no consequences to it. And so the question is, can we impeach many of those Supreme Court justices who lied under oath? Can we impeach Clarence Thomas? Because him and his wife were involved in the insurrection in some capacity. And so could you go after that? Or do we pack the courts with Democratic leaning justices, which is also a possibility. Democrats have control. What I'm angry about with Roe v. Wade is, for the first time in U.S. history, a decision was leaked from the Supreme Court. That never happens. You never get a month's notice that something's going to happen a certain way. And so we had a month notice back in May that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned, and as much as AOC, Alexandria, or I cannot pronounce her name at all. What is her name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a United States representative, and you also have Senator, I cannot think of her name. She ran for president. What was her name? Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Senator Warren of the U.S. Senate and AOC from the U.S. Representatives, they both were out there on the lawns saying, hey, we're going to fight against this. How dare Supreme Court rule against Roe v. Wade? And then AOC is on a talk show talking about how President Biden can pack the courts and how it's up to the executive branch to hopefully federally mandate federal grounds for abortion clinics across states that ban it, so on and so forth. And so it's the question of, okay, but you're also a sitting United States representative. You could propose a bill tomorrow that makes it a federal law, Like, you could propose a bill that right now the Democrats have control of the House and the Senate and the executive branch. So basically, you're saying, hey everybody, we're gonna say president should do this, the president should do this. Well, you're also in a seat that can have some effect here. So AOC can propose a bill tomorrow that makes it a federal law that you are allowed to have an abortion. You are allowed to have pro-choice in this country. But not just that, AOC could tomorrow propose a bill to the U.S. House that says that, federal government has the right over states states do not have this much power over their citizens. States should not have this much rights over their citizens, which leads to discriminatory bills against African Americans, against Chinese, against LGBTQ minorities, and against women. So you could say tomorrow these things should be federal law. And she keeps saying, well, the president should do it. Well, yeah, the president should do it, but you should also do it. That makes it a law, not just if the president did it, it would make an executive order, which would only last the next 2 years, and then we have to have elections again. And who knows who could be president? I mean, sure, you're going to probably have President Biden, the incumbent, running against Donald Trump again. Because the January 6th committee is not handing over their evidence to the Department of Justice so that Donald Trump could be charged with treason, with attempted murder, with insurrection and a coup, and all these other things. He has yet to be charged with all these crimes from the Department of Justice. And if that doesn't happen in the next 2 years, we very likely could have a Republican president who says, hey, we're not going to charge Donald Trump with these horrible things, and he's going to get away with it. And all of these people that asked for pardons, these sitting U.S. House of Representatives and Senators who were just as much a part of the insurrection and committing treason on our country, just as much, they're going to get away with it as well. Because they're not charged either. They're not pushed out of the U.S. Senate or the House, you know? And so you have to ask the question of, you know, Senator Elizabeth Warren could also propose these bills in the U.S. Senate. And things in the House and the Senate can go either way. So if you have a senator that proposes a bill, it has to pass the Senate, and then it moves on to the House to pass there as well. But if a person in the House proposes it and it passes in the House, it goes to the Senate before. Either way, it has to pass both the House and the Senate before moving on to the president to sign. The president then has the power to veto or pass it. If he says no and vetoes it, it comes back to the House and Senate, and they need to take another vote, which means even more people have to agree with it then, right? But the horrible part is these representatives and senators had an entire month, which is longer than they've ever had. They had 50 years of the most expensive advertising campaign in world history, believe it or not, to get rid of abortion, to get rid of Roe v. Wade and overturn it. For 50 years now, Republicans have been making this a campaign like stronghold of we're going to get rid of Roe v. Wade. We're going to get rid of human rights for others. So for 50 years now, this has been their strategy, and Democrats didn't have an answer for it. In 50 years, they have not come up with an answer and said, you know what, you can try to put as many people on the Supreme Court as you want to overturn Roe v. Wade, but we are going to have a U.S. law from the Senate or the representatives ready to go. So if you try to do that, we're going to pass it in the Senate or the House. And keep in mind, right now, they could pass that, someone could propose a bill to undo this entire overturn of Roe v. Wade. They can propose that bill tomorrow. And the worst part is they have until November, until the November elections, which is the midterms, which is when many of the U.S. representatives and Senate members are up for re-election. So they have until then to do something about this. And they're probably not going to. And you know what's going to happen? Right now, if any U.S. representative or senator said, here's a bill tomorrow trying to undo the overturn of Roe v. Wade, if they proposed that in the next couple months here, they would single-handedly be guaranteeing their re-election, no matter what. like that could happen tomorrow, because no, because a majority of Americans believe in LGBTQ rights. 80 some percent do. 87% of Americans believe in LGBTQ rights being protected under the law. 60 some percent believe that women should have the right to choose to get an abortion and rights over their own bodies. Then you should also know that a lot of people. Yeah, so while it's legal in your state, there's actually other states that are trying to make it illegal. There's other states like, Texas said that they're going to, first off, that as soon as the Roe v. Wade decision came out of the Supreme Court last Friday, immediately within like minutes, it enacted a trigger law in Texas. So Texas made it illegal to, only 60%. Yeah, believe it or not, there's still 40% of people in America who don't think that women have the right over their own body. Our country is very, very sexist. Anyway, so this trigger law happened in Texas, and Texas is now saying that they're going to charge any woman who seeks medical care for an abortion. They're going to seek a federal, they're going to charge them with this crime, and because of the severity of this quote-unquote crime, that woman will never be allowed to vote in any election, no matter what, in her lifetime, because she now has a felony charge. It doesn't matter if it actually goes through, because she was charged with a felony, she no longer has the right to vote in any election in the future. So they're trying to strip away women's right to vote in the future, which is very much going to go to court. But they're also saying that if you get, thank you, I forgot the word felony, but if you get an abortion in another state, like California is saying that they are a safe haven for abortion. So if you want abortion services, you can go to California, get the care you need, and they're going to protect you. But Texas is saying that if you do so, somehow, some way, Texas still has the right to charge you with a felony, to charge that doctor who lives in California with a felony, which is ridiculous. And somehow every single person involved with your case in California that lives in California is somehow going to be charged with a felony from Texas. And so the question becomes, can one state really charge someone that lives in another state with a felony, even though they did not commit a crime? And even though they did not commit a crime, especially in Texas. So it's going to be a massive legal battle. But what Texas has also said this week is that they're already, they've already said that, we have to understand, there's a little context here. We have contacts in a lot of different places. Our TV show has a lot more access to things than you might assume. So behind the scenes, our producers talk with people in the government on a regular basis, trying to get information and trying to work with them on different aspects. And so we actually have contacts in the Supreme Court. Not the justices themselves, but on their team. And because each justice has their own team of staffers. So we have contacts in their staff that are telling us as soon as they come back from their hiatus, their vacation, the very next court case they're going to look at is Overvell v. Hodges, which gives LGBTQ people the right to marry. That is the very next case that they're going to look for. All right? And Texas, who also knows this information, has said if the Supreme Court overturns Lawrence v. Texas, which gave LGBTQ people the right to be ourselves openly. And Lawrence v. Texas was all about sodomy laws in America. So it basically stopped the police from entering your home and arresting you if you are gay. So let's say for my boyfriend and I, we live in our new apartment here together. And I mean, yeah, we have done things together because we are a couple. That is what couples do in relationships. They do make love. And, you know, that does happen because we love each other and we view that as a we view that as making love, not having sex. And so, yeah, we've done that in the past. And so, in this new world that they're trying to create, police can enter your home because you are a gay person without, by the way, without like knocking on your door. They can just like go in and arrest you because you've committed sodomy. Sodomy is considered a sexual act that does not end in pregnancy, basically. It is not for reproduction. So basically, any kind of oral or anal intercourse is not considered, that is not considered, you know, for reproduction. It is considered sodomy, and so they can enter your home and arrest you and put you in jail for however long. That is what used to happen before the Stonewall riots 50-some years ago in 1969. That is what happened before Stonewall riots. They can just enter your home whenever the hell they wanted and arrest you for being gay, for being transgender, for being bisexual. It doesn't matter, right? And the more open you are about this, like having a TV show, the more chances you had of being arrested. Well, Lawrence v. Texas in 2003 happened, and it said that police do not have this right, and it is no longer legal to arrest someone for being LGBTQ, just for being that. Was it Professor Pry the one who said corporations also benefited from making abortions legal? Yeah, they did, which is just horrendous. So, yeah. But Texas has already said that if the Supreme Court overturns Lawrence v. Texas, they will immediately in Texas enact Lawrence v. Texas again and go back to those days where they're arresting gay people. So basically, you have to understand, publicly, they're not trying to talk to their base. Texas is trying to, first off, piss off every LGBTQ person in Texas. They're trying to make it a hostile environment for every LGBT person in Texas. They're trying to do that. Why? Well, first off, it makes LGBTQ people want to move to more safe areas like California, New York, Massachusetts. And I do think it will affect the population of the United States. You're going to have mass migrations in the next couple of years here of LGBTQ people moving away from horrible states like Texas, and you're going to have them move towards safe states like New York, Massachusetts, California, and others. And so Texas has said this for a reason, not just to piss off every LGBT person in the state, but keep in mind they are also getting the ear right now from the Supreme Court justices. So right now they know there's 5 U.S. Supreme Court justices who just overturned Roe v. Wade and just committed, who lied under oath to the Senate. They know that for a fact. And so what ends up happening with that information is Texas is saying, hey, by the way, if you look at Lawrence v. Texas next, we're going to enact that again. And so basically they're advertising to these 5 people now. They're not trying to advertise to the rest of the world. They're trying to appeal to 5 people on the Supreme Court. And so the Supreme Court, those 5 people who already are horrible individuals who do not care about the United States Constitution and broke the U.S. Constitution many, many times this past week, those 5 people who lied under oath and said that they were not going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and then did. They lied under oath to the U.S. Senate in their committees to basically get them in their position. They lied under oath to the Senate and said, I'm not going to overturn Roe v. Wade if I am put in this lifetime position in this Supreme Court. And then they got in. They said that under oath just to get in the position. And then as soon as they got in, as soon as they had the majority power, they overturned Roe v. Wade. And so right now Texas is trying to appeal to those 5 people and say, hey, if you look at Lawrence v. Texas next, we're going to do what you want and we're going to make it illegal to be gay again. It's a horrible, horrible world we're living in, where basically our rights are constantly under attack. But right now, the Senate, the House, and the executive branch all have the power right now to pass the Federal Equality Act, making every LGBTQ person completely legal in the United States of America under the law. They have the power to do that right now. The House has already passed the Equality Act. The Senate is dragging their feet. And yet it is also controlled, by the way, by the Democrats. The Democrats have power in the Senate. But there's something called the filibuster. So the filibuster requires over 60 votes, not a majority. The Senate is 100 people. 100 people. So in theory, 51 votes gets you whatever you want, right? Well, according to the filibuster, you now need 60 votes in order to get what you want, which is just ridiculous. And that makes it incredibly hard for anything to get done, which is why the U.S. legislative branch has done nothing in the past 50 years, okay? So what ends up happening is the legislator, the House and the Senate, both say, hey, we have to be reelected every 2 years or every 6 years. That's an incredibly hard job. It's hard to get reelected. It takes a lot more money to get reelected. It takes a lot of time, effort, and resources. So they know they're up for re-election every 2 years or 6 years. So they decide, basically, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to vote on anything. So in the past couple of years, you've seen the House and the Senate not really pass anything. I mean, sure, you saw the House pass a lot of legislation when Mitch McConnell was in charge of the Senate and had majority power, but that was just to send a bunch of bills to the Senate. And basically, it was for the end result of showing the giant table filled with legislation the Senate is refusing to take a vote on. That was the Speaker of the House, is Nancy Pelosi. It was her way of basically sticking it to Mitch McConnell and showing how ineffective the Republicans are, because look at all the bills that we passed and gave to the Senate, but the Senate is refusing to vote on these things, right? Truth is, the Senate did the same damn thing. So the Senate passed a whole bunch of bills, and different ones, and sent it to the House, and Nancy Pelosi said, we're not going to take a vote on those either. So she was trying to point out Mitch McConnell for doing this horrible thing, and the sad part is, she was doing this exact same thing behind the scenes against the Republicans. So all this time, you have the Senate and the House going back and forth, trying their best not to pass anything for years upon years. They've sort of pretty much agreed, Democrats and Republicans, that the Supreme Court is the one that should decide everything, because the Supreme Court, once they're appointed, once they are in office, they cannot be voted out. They are lifetime appointments that you're allowed to either retire from or you die in that office, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. And you can also be impeached, but that has never happened in U.S. history. And it's also, a horrible thing that the House and the Senate would have to agree on in overwhelming numbers, which they'll never be able to get the votes for. So, and you also have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Supreme Court member that you're impeaching committed a crime, which is, not entirely true when you are talking about Roe v. Wade being overturned. It's not a crime to overturn a ruling. So it's a very long uphill battle, but these Supreme Court justices can kind of be the bad guys all the time of, well, they're the ones that did it. Back when marriage equality became a thing in 2015 across the United States, when Overville v. Hodges happened in 2015, the Senate, I believe, was Republican controlled at the time. And sort of their view of this was, hey, look, to our voters, they're basically saying, they were saying in 2015, hey, look, Republicans, it's not our fault. It was the Supreme Court. They're the bad guys. They're the ones that, allowed marriage equality to happen, not us. Please elect us again. They're the ones that kept saying that. Whenever something happened against Democrats were the first to be like, hey, it's not our fault. Look, it's the Supreme Court. They're the ones that changed this. They're the ones that did this. And right now, you have people with Roe v. Wade saying the same thing. Democrats are out there in spades going, look, it's the Supreme Court. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. President Biden could do this, this, and this, and this. First off, President Biden would have a long, long uphill battle to do any of those things. But you're basically blaming President Biden for something when he didn't do it. He is not the one that put Republican extremists on our Supreme Court. That was Donald Trump, the man who never won a popular vote and who committed treason and attempted murder, and somehow was allowed to still be president of the United States. And was impeached 2 times, by the way. So, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about an extreme country that has a lot of problems, and you're paying for 500 and... How many members to that? You're paying, in the United States, 435 elected members of the United States House of Representatives and 100 members of the Senate. So you're paying 535 people to do nothing in America. 535 people to just sit on their hands and do nothing. But 9 people get to control how many rights and what rights 335 million Americans have. It is ridiculous that 9 people have that power, when our system is built for checks and balances. So those 9 people, their only power should be to determine if a law from the legislative branch or an executive order from the executive branch is constitutional. That should be the only thing they do. But those 535 people of the U.S. Congress haven't done anything, so the Supreme Court basically had to act with court cases. And that is how rules are determined in America. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, the country we are heading to, but we're going to have a massive discussion next Thursday at 7 p.m. with experts in the field. We're going to talk with a lawyer to see on that live stream. We're going to have a professional lawyer joining us, who's an LGBTQ rights rights worker. So we're going to be talking with him and seeing exactly what kind of repercussion this has from a legal standpoint, what we can do legally, and we're going to be talking with Pastor Sharon Stokes to see the religious side of it, because this, in the past week alone, the U.S. Supreme Court not just ruled on Roe v. Wade and overturned it. The Supreme Court also ruled that more people have the right to own assault rifles because, mass shootings weren't a problem in our country. Then they also ruled that federal money can go to Christian private schools to fund their school and fund their anti-LGBTQ education, pushing kids to suicide. And they also ruled that there is no more separation of church and state in America, because they've ruled that a religion can be forced onto students in public schools. So if you go to a public school, your teachers can now, under this new ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, they are now allowed to force you or push you to a certain religion. That is now a federal rule. There is no more separation of church and state at all. Insert creative username. Thank you so much for the donation, by the way. Says, I am at a point where I have no faith in this country. If I ever get the chance to leave, I will take it in a heartbeat. It's hard to live in a fascist theocracy. It's fair. It's difficult because as much as I love my country, as much as I love where I live and my family and all of this, yes, thank you so much for donating. Huge thank you. It really does help us. As much as I love this country and I love my hometown, I love where I used to live, I love my family being here, I no longer think that America is as free as it was 2 weeks ago. This country is no longer the greatest country on earth. It's no longer number one. I don't really know if it ever was. We've been pushing for so long for Americans to lose their rights. And I don't understand why Republicans wanted that for so many years. I can't understand someone who says they deserve more rights than others and pushes for that for 50 years. Spends their entire career pushing for it. I don't understand that. But here's the thing, Michael and I had a conversation the other night at dinner. We went on a nice date out for the night and enjoyed ourselves. But we had a conversation at dinner that night because something just happened. And we learned about, it was Thursday night right before Roe v. Wade was overturned. And we had this long conversation and said to ourselves, hey, this is going to happen tomorrow, And so I said to Michael, I'm like, if they try to overturn Overvell v. Hodges, what do we do? And so him and I agreed, if they try to overturn Overvell v. Hodges, at any point, if we even hear hearsay that that's going to happen, and they're actually working on it, Michael and I have agreed that we're going to get married that day or the very next day. Because we are ready to get married anyway, we might as well. But if we hear any hint that they're actually working on Lawrence v. Texas, which again, I'm very lucky to be in a position that I have contacts inside of the Supreme Court offices, but him and I have said to each other that if we even hear a hint of that actually happening, Michael and I are moving out of this country immediately. We don't know where we're going, but we would move out of the country immediately. And I mean, we don't want to get married right now. We want to make it a big deal. We want to make it a huge event here on YouTube. And we want to, please don't kill yourself. That's not my point here. Yes, we haven't, believe it or not, our team of 36, 37 people now, when you hire the right people for your team, those people have contacts. When you hire the right people, we have our ways. So our producers and researchers are some of the best in the country. So some of the best people that our country has ever seen as reporters and researchers, and they know how to get contacts in the right places, and they know where to get information in the right places. So our team is incredible. So huge shout out and thank you to them. But yeah, we'll be looking at that if that ever happens. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully America survives. To put it simply, hopefully America survives this. And I know it might be bleak, but here's the thing. One of the things we'll be talking about in that massive panel next week is, what do we do next? Well, we get out there, we vote. 1 in 5 LGBTQ people do not vote in any elections, which is insane, because Republicans, those huge, massive homophobic and transphobic people, voted in every election for the past 50 years. And yet 1 in 5 LGBTQ people have not voted in any election in their entire lifetime. That is insane to me. So get out and vote. Run for office yourself. Vote in those lower end offices. Like, there was just, it was going viral yesterday on TikTok. There's this school board meeting that they basically banned anti-racism ban, which means basically the school, it's a weird way to say it, of we're going to ban a ban, right? But you're banning an anti-ban, so it makes it even more confusing. Basically what it means is they are now teaching children in that school district how to be racist. Long story short. And so that just happened in a local school board meeting in America. And so you have these problems on a local issue. Like, I keep saying to people, and people don't understand it, your local school board has more power than your state representatives or senators. Your state senators and House have more power than your federal Congress does in the House and Senate. Those people in the House and Senate at the U.S. level have more power than the President of the United States. And the Supreme Court has more power than all of those combined. Okay? So you need to vote in local elections. You need to get out there and peacefully protest. Do not, under any circumstances, try to beat someone up, cause damage to property or land. Do not in any way make that protest unpeaceful. Okay? Look, when it comes to these things, okay, Republicans, when they lose something, when they lose an election, when they are upset, they commit insurrection. They commit treason on our country. They storm the Capitol with spears in hand, wanting to kill legislators, and somehow get away with it, by the way. When we get upset about things, we cannot do the same things as much as we want to. As much as we want to overturn our government and start all over again, as much as we want to sort of take the table and flip it upside down. As much as we want to get angry about this, our anger has to be channeled to action. That is, Republicans, when they get angry, they turn the whole table over. They go on a storm raging over and over and over again. They work for 50 years just trashing everything. They don't care if our country survives from the mess they cause. All they care about is getting revenge. On the other hand, we have to go higher than them. We have to not go low. We have to not cause trouble. We have to stick to our guns here and get things done. We have to plan. We have to rally peacefully. We have to vote. We have to... If you're sitting there going, hey, I'm 18 years old or older, and I am tired of my town council not having an ordinance to say that we are going to protect LGBTQ people. That, by the way, any town in America, any town or city can have an ordinance to protect LGBTQ people. It's called a Fairness Act, or what is it called? Anti-discriminatory bill. Anti-discrimination ordinance. You can have these in your town. So if you're sitting there going, I'm 18 years old or older in our country, and I'm tired of not having my town as a safe space for LGBTQ, I'm tired of my senator, of my House member not doing things the right way and not passing these things. I'm tired of them trying to strip away rights from and my freedoms. I'm tired of, the Supreme Court getting away with this kind of things. Run for office. It doesn't take a huge amount of time. It's very profitable because, these senators and House members get millions upon millions of dollars a year through back channels. You gotta realize, why they want to stay in power is not because they like the power. It's because they like the money. Okay? You gotta realize, in campaigns, a certain portion of... When someone donates $1 to your campaign, okay? 10%, a certain portion of that can be used on advertising, okay? Now, there's no law that says that your spouse is not allowed to own the advertising company and inflate whatever cost they want to have, okay? So when a lot of people run for office, they have their wife, their husband, or their partner suddenly start an advertising company. And that's how they make their millions of dollars, through that advertising company. Or they're allowed to make expenses up whenever they want. So it's very profitable to become a part of our government, okay? So run for office, make a whole lot of money doing it, and actually do something. Actually help the LGBTQ community. If you're younger than 18 years old, go out and peacefully protest. Be a part of these pride events. Be a part of these rallies for your rights as human beings. Show that everyone is affected, not just older people. Use your platform on social media for good, to help others understand these issues. Share stories from USA Today, like the one that I was a part of, and is linked in the description of this episode. Use articles like this and share them on social media and show your family, your friends, this is what is happening in our country, and you need to get out there and you need to vote too. Tell if you have the power to do this, tell your parents, your guardians, all about what is happening right now, and tell them, hey, If you really support me for being a lesbian, being gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, or aromantic, asexual, if you really support me in November, vote, vote, vote. Vote for people who support me. Because if you want to claim from now on, if you want to claim you are an ally of our community, if you want to claim that you love us unconditionally, you will not vote against us in the election. Plenty of people do this. I had a family member recently, like a far distant family member, like not even like, but who says they support us and then votes against us in every election. It's like, then no, you don't. You don't care about my rights if you're willing to vote against that, okay? Like, when we talk about homophobia or transphobia, a lot of people assume it is, oh, you're just... Homophobia is defined as the fear of homosexual or people who are perceived as homosexual, right? Biphobia, same thing. Transphobia, same thing, right? So when we talk about homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, aphobia, people think, I'm not afraid of gay people. I'm not afraid of transgender people. Like, there are some out there who are afraid of going to the bathroom with a trans person, even though trans people just go to the bathroom and wash their hands. That's it. And you know what? It's weird because we actually did an episode on trans bathrooms, and we realized that, you know, trans people, when they go to the bathroom, they do their business, they wash their hands. When transphobic people go to the bathroom, a lot of them don't wash their hands. So really, we should fear you more than the trans person. Anyway, so it's defined as this irrational fear of others, but in actuality, homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, and aphobia are this thought process that you are better than other people, that you are better than gay people, bisexual people, transgender people, or asexual, aromantic, or intersex people. It is this irrational, completely unwarranted, with no evidence, feeling that you are better than other people. And somehow they use this argument of, well, LGBTQ people want they want equality. No, they want special rights, Do you not know what the equal signs mean? Like, go to first grade math class, learn what an equal signs mean, and then come back to us, okay? Learn what equals mean, and then come back, right? But, yeah, we actually did. I kid you not, homophobic people wash their hands less than LGBT people. It's amazing what you learn when you research, but it's also a little weird. I love how that's the thing you're sticking to. Okay, whatever. Y'all are weird in the comments. But yeah, like, really, these people are pushing kids to suicide every day with discrimination and so on, and they don't care. Because they don't value human lives at all. They care about things being better for them and them having more rights than other people, but they don't care about those other people having any rights at all. Even the right to life itself, they don't care about. And so that is what we're dealing with. We are dealing with people who hate us so much that they don't care about our right to live. How do you fight that? You go out, you vote, and you rally, and you show that you outnumber them. Okay? You go out and show that you are filled with love and hope, and they are filled with hatred. And if these Republicans are right, if these massive Christians are right, these conservative Christians who are extremist, if these extremist Christians are correct, that we have a higher power above us that is going to judge us someday, I guarantee you that judgment is not going to look kindly on these people who are pushing kids to suicide, who are not caring about pro-choice, who are not caring about the right and freedom of all other people, and who are lying about equality, okay? And saying that we want special rights when we've never asked for special rights. it's horrible the country we're living in, but the only way we make it better is by doing it ourselves. And we've gained equality before. We were we were literally here back in 1968, before Stonewall riots. We were here. We had to fight for every right we have in America. Because unless you are a straight, white, cisgender man, you didn't have equal rights in our country. And we had to fight to get here, so that means we will fight again. Eventually, these Republicans, these extremist religions will fall, or at the very least, they'll be taxed and actually pay their fair share, like, we do. So they will fall, but we have to fight. We have to band together. It is time for the LGBTQ to stop thinking we are in separate communities. It's time for us to stop discriminating. It's time for us to stop discrimination against bisexuals. It is time for us to stop discrimination against transgender people. There's the people who think, well, trans people have a gender identity different than the one they were, than their sex assigned at birth. And being gay is completely different because it's a sexual orientation. And so there are people who think that we should separate and go our different ways. But you know what? Trans people were there for us back in 1969 in Stonewall riots. It was a trans black woman who threw the first brick at Stonewall riots. The single greatest moment in our country's history in 1969. It is literally the most important moment in history for 11.7% of the world's population. The Stonewall riots, if you haven't learned about it yet, go to our channel and look up Stonewall riots. We have plenty of videos covering it. But we've been here before, and trans people were there for us. Trans people were the first people to throw the brick, okay? And here we are 50 some years later saying that we should abandon them. The reason why it is called the LGBTQ, okay, is that we are a community. The reason why the L exists in the LGBTQ is because lesbians stood by us throughout the entire AIDS epidemic, when people were saying it was the gay disease and gay people deserved to die because of being homosexual. When all of that was happening, okay, it was lesbians who stood by us. And so the community decided they're going to put L in front of GBTQ, which was the original abbreviation, by the way. And they're going to put L in front of it because lesbians stood by us the entire time without fail with such a strong support that they deserved to be first in that abbreviation. Okay? So we have band together before, and we need to stick together now as a community. As that article says, I want to point that out again, like in this article. Let me find it. Okay? LGBTQ people included in this story use the words community often. We are a community. We have to stick together. And you know what? It is time for separate organizations that do very similar work in our country to stop being so protective of themselves. It is time for LGBTQ organizations across our country to say, you know what? It's time to start working together and network. Stop viewing each other as competition to an end goal. Start viewing each other as assets and a network and as a community to get to that end goal. Why LGBT organizations view each other as competition, I have no idea. As we've shown on this program before, when organizations work together, a hell of a lot can get done to help our community, and I don't know why we're not banding together. These religious organizations, these extremists who have tried to ruin our country, these extreme religious organizations have band together and started working together, and look what they were able to accomplish. They undermined this past week, they undermined everything good about our country. They got rid of the separation of church and state. They gave everyone more guns. They overturned Roe v. Wade, gave states way more power than they should have. And here we are. They accomplished their goals. So it's time for us to band together as a community and accomplish ours. As Maggie says in the comments, we are stronger together. I keep saying to people, and you'll notice this about my house if I ever take you on a tour. We don't fly the American flag. It doesn't stand for as much freedom as we want to stand for. I'm proud of our country. Sometimes, not right now, but I fly this flag. Not just the backdrop for the studio over there, for our TV studio, but we fly this flag all the time. Because this 6-striped rainbow flag stands for more freedoms and more equal rights than the American flag has ever stood for. Okay? It also represents more people than America does. If you look at countries' population, okay? By population, the most populated countries, number 1 is China, number 2 is India, and you know what? Right now, number 3 is America. But keep in mind, okay, that LGBTQIA represents 11.7% of the world's population. 11.7% of the world's population is LGBTQIA, which means we have about 900 and some million people in our community worldwide. 900 and some million. That's almost 1 billion people on Earth are LGBTQ. Okay? America, total population is 330 million people. So that means this flag represents 3 times as many people as the American flag does. And fun fact for you, okay? Fun fact. I want to get to a video to actually show you the numbers here, because it's really, really interesting, okay? And this, I promise, will give you a lot of hope, okay? We're working on a class right now for teachers to help them understand how to be more inclusive in their classrooms and how to do better, okay? Let me just get to the graphic here. All right. There's loads. All right. So here's one of the graphics that we're using for our show. So as you can sort of see here on our screen. All right. Get here. All right. So according to population, these are the most populated countries in the entire world. China has 1.45 billion people. India has 1.4 billion people. The LGBTQ represents, this flag represents 924,300,000 individuals. United States currently has a population of 334,901,000 people. Indonesia has 279,397,000. Pakistan has 229,782,000. Brazil has 215,603,000 people, okay? But fun fact for you, okay? When you add up those numbers, okay, LGBTQ represents more people than the 4th largest country, United States, the 5th largest Indonesia, the 6th largest Pakistan, and the 7th largest Brazil. I did that right. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, okay. So LGBTQ, this flag represents more people than United States, Indonesia, Pakistan, and almost all of Brazil combined. Okay? So we are talking about a flag that represents more people than 4 other countries combined. If we, were a country of our own. Okay? That is what we're talking about. And so when people say that our community is not strong or it's a minority, first off, it represents more people than the United States entirely, so it's not necessarily a minority. Not worldwide, at least. But we have to stand together, and we have to show that we are stronger than the United States government, because we are. We have more population, and we have more strength than the United States government. Okay? So we have to stick together. We have to show our solidarity in our community. And most importantly, we have to be kind to one another, because right now we are at desperate times. And I fear if we don't stick together and show each other that we support one another, what kind of country are we living in? What kind of world are we living in if we treat each other poorly, or as poorly as extremists on our Supreme Court treat us? We are no better than our adversaries if we treat each other with the same level of disdain or disrespect or discrimination. So it is time to get over whatever prejudices you have over one another. It is time to stop fighting with each other. It is time to stop. We have a bunch of problems of for instance, gay men have, this complex of, oh, because this person is a little overweight, let's make fun of them because they're overweight. Or they're in a relationship, so let's try to break them up so that they can be unhappy. We have our own problems. It is time to get past all of those problems and say, you know what? We are a community, and we have to stick together now more than ever. And that is why I did this article with USA Today, because we have to show that solidarity. We have to be there for one another, and we have to make everyone realize now is a desperate time, and this is a desperate plea to stick together as LGBTQ. And you know what? We need to fly this flag. Because if we don't believe in this flag, there is no believing or having any hope in the American one. Without the hope and strength this flag gives us, America can fall. So let's stick together, be by each other's side. And again, I wanted to end this by saying a huge, huge thank you to the reporter Sammy Gibbons over at USA Today for interviewing myself and for reaching out. We very much look forward to a long relationship with USA Today, and doing many more articles with them in the future, hopefully, and some other special projects that we can't talk about just quite yet. But thank you so much for them doing this article with us and allowing us to be a part of it, and for taking the time to speak with us on Monday morning about this entire issue. So thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Professor Pride. And bye for now.